All right, welcome back, everybody. We're here for another episode of Peach Pit, one of the more exciting ones in hindsight, as we get to kind of chew on and discuss a little bit what went down this past weekend at the Peachtree District Championship. We'll have some conversation about the event, state of the game, kind of in Georgia, a little bit of conversation about what we might see at Worlds, as well as some PCH season review. But before we get started, we have to make the usual disclaimer that any views or opinions shared on the show are solely that of the individual contributor and do not reflect the views of Peach Pit, any FRC team, First, Georgia First, South Carolina First, or any of their affiliates and sponsors. So, the idea behind the show is to serve as an FRC talk show that focuses primarily on the Peachtree District. We're going to be talking about a variety of topics, so don't be surprised if you see us drop some hot takes. Ultimately, we're hoping to provide some entertaining and engaging discussions. With that said, we'll go through some introductions. My name is Kellen Hill. I'm on the Georgia First Planning Committee, working with practice fields around the district, former mentor for Team Otto.
I'm Brian Carlson with Team 6829 at Night Robotics. I'm a strategy mentor there and a great admirer of the practice fields we had at DCMP. Thank you very much, Kellen.
Yes, thank
you. I'm Thomas Priego. I'm Justin's nemesis, and I am a consultant for Team 4451 Robot Z Garage.
Robot Z, yeah, I love that. I'm David Allred, the drive coach of aforementioned Robot Z Garage 4451. And did you say we're going to drop some hotcakes? Is that right?
I think so.
Hotcakes. Okay, cool.
There's only one type of food item that's allowed to be discussed.
Just donuts,
right?
Or one breakfast-related food item. I will allow burgers to be referenced, but nothing more.
Right. We have a very strict non-compete clause with other food groups on the show.
And hotcakes.
We did drop some hot donuts this past weekend too.
We did.
Yes. Before we get going, a huge shout out to Randy from 8736, who gave me a big box of donuts. Those donuts were distributed to the drive team of 4451 and the various hosts of Peach Pit, except for Anupam, because I could not find him, and then I didn't want to run around anymore. So he didn't get one, but everyone else did.
Yeah, thank you very much.
I finally benefited from this donut thing. Darren from the 6919 gang delivered some donuts to the practice field table. So we very much enjoyed that. But we'll also, while we're here getting the introductions out of the way, we'll get a shout out to our producer, Ian, making things work in the background for getting recordings up, and the recordings posted on YouTube for everybody to watch. So thanks a bunch, Ian, for all you do. All right, let's go ahead and hop into some quick district championship review of the outcomes, and then kind of chew a little bit on what went down. Thomas, you want to cover the outcomes?
Yeah, so for the DCMP review, we have the champs 1771, 2974, and 8575. This team set not one, but two world records at the event. And is probably, I would say, is probably a world championship level, if not Einstein level alliance in and of itself. So I was really excited to see them compete. The finalists were Team 6919, 1683, and 4451. With 2415 subbing in for a match in finals, with 1683 having, I believe their shooter broke. So having some issues there. It was a real good competition all around. I know just from coaching our kids, every match is like, okay, we can win. Okay, we can win. And going into finals one, I was like, all right, guys, we have a shot. And then they dropped a world record. And at that point, I walk out and I see our kids, and I'm just like, you know what? It was fun. Finalist is pretty good too. I like, from all of us, we had pretty much accepted that we were not going to win that that finalist match, which really just speaks to the power of the 1771 Walton Alliance, because we were still putting up, I think we put up 120 fairly consistently in elims. So for them just to be like, yeah, we just kind of win regardless, was kind of wild. As for awards, we had 4188 and 3489 win Impact. 41-12 and 85-75 won EI, with 85-75 getting the gold, silver, cling bling. And our rookie all-stars, so the two rookies we're sending to Worlds this year, are 94-80, the Gear Bears, and 94-77 Lambda, which was wild. In quals, to speak on quals pretty much it early on devolved to, all right, who's going to seed one? Walton or 1771. It just became very head and shoulders to everyone at the event that those were the two best team or best performing robots there, which was crazy. And it really just became a race to see, okay, who was going to pick who when it came down to alliance selection time. Outside of that, you really saw the cream rise to the crop in terms of a lot of the people who were up there. Team 1414 ended up seeding third, picking 1261. And then team, I forget what team number was right after. I think it was 6366 seeded third and picked 343. So overall, there was a really, really tight and good quals race. There was a lot of intrigue, which really came down to the wire, with 1287 ranking as high as they did, and at some point looking like they were going to end up finishing third, which would have bumped them up to the 2 seed, leading to a potential scorch, which would have been wild. They ended up falling and ending up being the 4 seed alliance captain, where they picked 7451 after being declined by 6340. Did they ask any other team? Or
I think there was one other one, wasn't there?
I think, was it 4509?
Yeah, I think so.
And being declined by 45. Yeah, they would have been. No, they wouldn't decline by 4509 because they were 6340's first pick. I think they were just declined by. They were just declined by Maris, and then they 7451 accepted. Then you had 16919 with the 5 seed. I think this is the farthest a 5 seed has made it in Georgia. I don't think they've made it to a finals before. I know Otto has won a couple times as a 6 seed, but it was the alliance that they were able to build, picking 1683, the Techno Titans, and 4451, Robot Z Garage or Robots Garage. Alliance 6, 6340, picked 4509 and then 4188. And then Alliance 7 being 4533, 1102, 6925. And then finally we had Alliance 8 being 8849 Storm, 4112 South Forsyth Eaglebots, and 1746 Auto, rounding out the teams playing in elims. Quals, it really in quals, in fact, we saw our first unicorn match. And Brian, if you want to talk about that real quick.
Sure. Yeah. So going into the event, we had a preview early last weekend when we previewed the DCMP. Will we see a unicorn? And surprisingly enough, it came from a way we kind of didn't expect it. We thought that we'd see a trap in there, right? But it turns out in quals 60, we had our first and only unicorn match. I will say this, that there was a second unicorn that almost happened. I forget which quals it was, but Robots Garage was trying to climb at the end, could not get up due to some, I think he had some mechanical or issues or control issues, but that was so close to getting the unicorn, but they missed it. But coming in with the unicorn match was a very well-rounded set of teams that starts off on the winning alliance. You had 2974 Walton Robotics, 1287 Aluminum Assault, 4026 Decatur Robotics, getting their 4 RPs, and then on the non-winning side, you had 4509 Mechanical Bulls, 7104 Bot Brothers, and then finally 1648 Midtown Robotics. Both of them pulling off the Climb RP. I forget what it was called, but with Ensemble, yeah, that thing. It's an end game RP, right? Whatever.
Yeah, who cares about end game, right?
Hey, well, no, I don't care about the name. I really care about the RP.
Okay.
But yes, so it was, it wasn't what we kind of expected, where you expected to have a high tier team just go up there and trap and get most of the points and just needing something simple to go along with it. It was real impressive to get these teams together have a good match, break early enough to get all the climbs with everybody there. We did pass out donuts on Saturday morning to all the teams. And then we also made up a little unicorn keychain for each member of the drive team that says DCMP 2024 to sort of commemorate the fact that they were able to pull it off. It was really great to see that. A lot of the teams didn't know what a unicorn match was, but they heard it here that there was a unicorn and donuts. And most people are like, a unicorn match, that's when you get 4 RPs. I'm like, no. It's more than that, right? You have to get 4 RPs on one side. All 6 have to be earned and not by penalties. So it was really impressive to see them pull that off and enjoy their donuts.
Yeah, everybody in that match. Yeah, there's the winners and then there's the loser winners.
Yeah.
But yeah, very impressive to pull that off. I'm going to shout out back to the rankings. Thomas went over there. The biggest shout outs, I think, you mentioned the close ranking match or ranking game kind of in through quals, but you really got to give a shout out to 1771 and 2974. At Albany, at Albany 17 or Gwinnett was their first event, so they had a 2.92 ranking score there with a 12-0 record. At Albany, they went then 10-2 with a couple of losses, only put up a 2.75 ranking score. At District Champs, they put up a 3.58. That they could have lost. They could have not shown up to a couple matches and still been ranked.
Still ranked.
Exactly. Yeah, they were 6 points clear of Walton in second place and 13 points clear of third place, or 13 ranking points clear of third place. At 30 ranking points for IHOT. So,
but then outside of that, which was insane, is you had a bunch of teams then tied and a bunch of rankings that ended up going to the first and second tiebreaker to determine alliance selection order. Like Team 1440 and 6366 were tied at 2.5 and 1414. Sorry. Been watching a lot of California teams recently. Got it on the average co-op. Then 1287, 6919, and Marist were all tied in their ranking scores, with 1287 and 6919 having to go to the average match score tiebreak to determine pick order. And then after that, you had then 3 alliances all tied for 27 to round out the top 10 or the top 8 alliance captains, which is
I'll tell you what, the average co-op score that skyrocketed at this event.
Yeah,
well, it's big time. Yeah, it was even part of the game until this one.
Yep. Oh yeah. Number 1 seed at Albany had 0.33. Number 1 seed at Gwinnett had a 0.08 average co-op. So to jump from that to a 0.83 or to these 0.92s that you see up there, that is just happening every single match.
At Dalton, you had Auto, Score, and Amp and the other alliances Amp just so they could have their one and only co-op bonus because people just weren't doing it. So I think that's wild. I think the lowest co-op percentage I've seen is 0.42, which is still higher than any other competition's highest, which is wild. And again, I think this just really speaks to, and I think Kellen had mentioned it, and the more I've thought about it, I went from disagreeing to agreeing with him. I think this is the best season that PCH has had in terms of robot depth ever. I think there's a case to be made that maybe we finally reached the peak that 2019 was, but even then, I think we've surpassed it. We have 2 world-class as of filming. I think the first top 25 list just came out, and 1771 was 8th, which is still somehow underrated, in my opinion. I think they're easily a top 5, if not top 3. You have Walton, which has the best, and I will die on this hill. If you watch their driver drive and their elims run, it was phenomenal. I give it to them hands down over 1771 because of the level of automation that 1771 has the best programmer in the district, if not the world, on their team, and 2974 has the best driver, right? Both of those kids are absolutely cracked. Just watching them perform was insane. I think 1771 was said something of like they have 74,000 different autonomous modes. So, and we only saw, I think, like 3 of them here. So both of those teams are wild. And then the mid-tier, it's not like there's those guys and just no one else. The mid-tier, you have 1102, 6919, Us, Robots Garage, 1261, iHot, 343, 6366, 7451, 1683. All of these teams, and if I missed you, I'm sorry, that were just amazing. Like, it's the mid-tier teams that we had this year were traditionally what the top tier teams were in years past.
Yeah. Well, if you think about it, if you look at that unicorn match, Bot Brothers ranked 50th, right? And they were part of that unicorn match, and they didn't park. They actually had to climb. So the ability of just climbing in this district has gone up. It used to be that you'd get maybe 25 to 30% of the teams that could climb, right? And with the kitbot coming out and all that kind of fun stuff, the KOP revolution, the support in WPI lib, you're seeing everybody be able to execute, especially with the open alliances to help you see some of the things that you can't figure out on your own, like how are you going to solve that? And those little things there make this year very strong across the board.
That, and I think you could reasonably put together an alliance of robots that did not make the cut for eliminations, and maybe counting a couple of the robots that got pulled in as backups. But to have, so if you let me pick 3 of those robots out of the remaining pool, I think you could pull together a pretty strong alliance.
Yeah.
That wealth of options for, I don't know, at some point I feel like it's frustrating to not make eliminations. But this is event, it's like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. They got picked. They're a really good team. I think 1771 said it after picking 8575. It was like, these guys have a 4-node auton. That means us and Walton get to go race for the center line, while our third bot scores 4 game pieces in autonomous mode.
And it wasn't like, I think 2 years ago we were like, man, my third bot's got an auton where it moves was your big winner. And now we're having it. And I think that's like the big progression of the district, and something that you really see in trend lines of just slowly but surely, like the top teams will almost always be the top teams, but we're seeing the midline creep up and up and up and up. And that's something that I think is really exciting. I will still say, I think the most exciting event is still last year's state champs. This year, I mean, it was just, okay, let's just, give Walton in 1771 their crown. But still, I think it's just from watching the event, I as a spec, like, I have so many memories from this event of just not my team on top of my, like, the cool things my team did. Like watching 1746 be the 4th alliance member for the first seed in one match. Intentional or not, I don't, that for it's very important distinction. I must say that was a joke. They weren't intentionally trying to throw that match. They weren't. That was their strategy. It just so happened that the team they were supposed to be feeding was dead on the wrong side of the field, which is why they did it. And the people who are power dumping have no communication. But that match is crazy. 1746 ended up playing a game. I think it's Horseshoe with the note where they shot their first note that they ever ferried.
You're muted.
We lost some battery, I guess.
Sorry, my microphone died. But they ended up shooting a note directly onto our climber poles. The first note they shot.
No, and it just appeared out of nowhere.
I remember that night I was on a call with them, and they had shown me their stuff from the practice field, and then we saw them at Burgers and Bots, and we're like, dude, this first match is gonna go crazy. You're gonna feed us so many notes. And then
Doink, we're out of commission, and you get to defense.
And I was like,
hey,
we're playing defense this match.
we did a good job.
So
I think one of the stories that you don't really hear, but I know a lot of us were walking around and saw it. If you look at the top, pretty much the top half, right? There were a lot of teams who were working on their robots and fixing problems, having mechanical issues. This game was rough this year, a lot of collisions. There were bent frames. And so not only were drive teams critical, having a good oil pit crew that goes through your checklist and can quickly do stuff. I know on our team, we had to pull off a swerve module to work on intake, right? So you look at some of those teams that are down in the mid pack, if it was maybe for a match or two here and there with a mechanical problem, they're up there at the top. So across the board, it was a fun event. And, nowadays with what you're seeing with the Krakens and swerves, you better have your pit crew all ready to go and plan on when you design your robot for make sure you have stuff repairable quickly.
Yeah, I spent most of the event over at the practice field for making that happen, but it was like for what you were saying about robots holding things together. Walton was one of those robots that was over there a couple of times working on things like drivetrain characterization, just to get their robot back to a state where it could do what it needed to do just before their matches, which is only more impressive that they pulled off a ranking above 3.08 when they don't have a trap mechanism.
I thought drivetrain characterization was the driver using his eyes.
Well, with swerve drive, I think it's a little bit more finicky.
I'm like, because he has one. I'm assuming. I think it was a young man driving. I forget, but anyway, they have a great driver, and it's just amazing what they do. As a matter of fact, they did the same thing last year. Just give them a bot to go, and they will drive the wheels.
They've done the same thing for about 10 years now. They just keep doing it, and they now have good intakes. When they first started doing it, they really drivers had a big uphill climb, but now that they've got all the pieces together, it's awesome to watch. I'm watching any of the 1678 254 matches. Obviously, 254 has a turret on the robot, but just how slick Walton was in doing, like turning, picking up game piece, and just the smoothest pivot as fast as it was back to the subwoofer and hit that shot and just keep doing that as smoothly as they were. I very much look forward to seeing how well they do it at World Champs. Yeah, because they're perfectly carved out for that role.
Yeah, I look at that and I look at 1771 and feeding Walton, and then Citrus Circuits feeding 254. 1771 has a better shot. They put their piece right in the corner, which is really great. It makes it easily defendable. 1678 had a couple pieces stolen because they just lay them out in the middle of the subwoofer. And yes, 254 has a better bot than necessarily Walton, but Walton was driving just as equally as good as they were. That simple, quick U-turn, because it's always in the same spot. I feel that 1678, 2974 cycled better. Citrus Circuits and 254 had the traps at the end, but as far as that teleop game, you're hard pressed to beat those two.
Yeah, overall though, I was also impressed with the district Autons. The Autons in the playoffs were pretty advanced. I mean, deep into the alliances. It wasn't like number one alliance is just running away with the thing. They were very competitive Autons out there all through the alliances.
Yeah, I think the number one alliance pulled off a perfect Auton the one match for scoring every note on their side and the center line.
That's correct.
But like you're saying, the majority of matches there was heavy contestation going on right at that center line. So again, very interesting seeing how that works at World Champs.
Forget the competitors on the other side at that particular match to put in 11. I mean, I watched Orbit's alliance not do that. So, you got to pull it off, and they did. right?
Yep.
And that's with Walton doing wheel characterization and Gwinnett doing, camera stuff.
Yeah.
Pretty wild camera stuff, by the way.
Yeah, I had bugged 1771 through their first two district events. I think there may have been some chance they showed up at Gwinnett, but otherwise they did not touch my practice field all season. So I was very happy that we got our practice field at district champs up to a level that actually was useful for those guys to that group to make good use out of it and really keep pushing their Auton game to new heights.
I will say this. It was great to have that practice field. I saw a lot of teams over there. I think it had a direct correlation to some of the mid-tier teams who were at DCMP starting to work on their center lines. The extra carpet we got from Shaw. Thank you very much, Brian Cooksey, for that, enough carpet to do that, because there were so many people using the center line that they were coordinating who's going to go one after the other. That's how important it was at this event. And so that practice field was critical for everybody.
Yeah. Also a shout out to 4188 for bringing the half of it for half of the field's worth of carpet, and then the other half of the elements. So again, this kind of thing doesn't happen without that kind of support. But hopefully we can make that kind of thing happen in the future to keep pushing our PCH teams to, again, new heights competitively. So with that said, let's go ahead and we've made mention of a number of these teams so far, but we're going to go down the list of our PCH championship qualifiers. And I think I wound up putting these in order of their district points, but I think we have them call outs for a couple of teams that did not qualify last year, so this will be their first time qualifying, at least in the last year and this year. But we have 1771 ranked number 1 overall in Peachtree District. We got Walton at number 2, 6919 up there. 1261 they'll be going this year when they didn't last year. I think they were, again, really close to the cutoff last year, so awesome to see that robot going. We got IHOT 1414. 6366 is, again, going for the first time, I think, in a few years, if I'm not mistaken, David.
Yeah, since their rookie year, yes.
That is awesome. We got 343 Metal in Motion, 1683 Techno Titans, 7451. Very cool to see this team up there. I know they're a historical culture award-winning team. Very cool to see them qualify on district points.
Yeah.
This year.
Great season.
For as good as that robot has been, I'm looking forward to seeing how they do at champs. Yeah, 85-75 double dipping as both the third bot on our district championship alliance, as well as, was it EI or Impact for EI? I think it was EI for the Due Westerners. So very cool to see them back at it. We got 4451, the Robot Z Garage. Hey, at least I'm not on the team. Thomas has no excuses.
Anyway,
all right, we have 4112 going as well. Very cool to see them go again, I believe, on their EI win. We got 4188 going. They missed just barely out last year, I believe. One of the few right out of the gate, out of the cutoff. 3489 is going again on a culture award. And then we got our 2 awesome rookies. I know there have been some moans and groans in past years about, we send too many awards teams. But it's really awesome to see how good these 2 rookies are, both as a program as well as competitively. That I think I told Anupam for our drive coach and main lead coach for 9477 that I think some teams moan and groan about having to play with some of these award-winning teams at world champs, and like, well, I'm playing with this team that got here by an award and not really on their competitive merits, and I might have a dud match because of it. But a 9477 and 9480, I think, are both going to be robots that can very well pull their weight, and they're going to surprise a couple teams with their capabilities.
Definitely.
So I'm very, very much looking forward to seeing how those two teams perform, as well as hope they come away with all the learning lessons in the world for the teams they're pairing up with, the robots they're surrounded by, and really hope they have their eyes open and learning plenty from this World Championship event. So that's our list of 16 teams that qualified for World Championships. I'd have to go and double check a World's registration list to make sure all of them are actually on it. But very excited about those 16 teams Peachtree's got going to World Champs this year.
It's a good batch.
But yeah, we talked a little bit.
Make some noise. We'll talk about that next week. We'll give a preview show of the World Champs, but when the divisions come out.
Yeah, I think they're closing in on the 600 number for what they're looking for a total registration mark. But we got to be patient a little bit for getting some division lists out, and we'll plan on having some more content out for y'all to talk about where PCH is landing, what divisions might look like, and what kind of hopes we might have for each team in their division.
Right.
But again, we were talking a little bit about it earlier for the talking about this being the best PCH season ever. I think I'd mimic Thomas's comment as well, that we may have missed out a little bit on the drama of a more competitive playoff series that we had last year, that had a lot of upsets to it, a lot of twists and turns for not knowing who was really going to walk away with it. Whereas this year kind of had the one seed was really the Goliath to beat that nobody wound up being able to take down. But again, the depth of the district has been fantastic. We want to do a bit better job. I know another thing we really enjoyed this at the district championship event, and I know we got it throughout the season a little bit, is the amount of viewers that will come up to us at events and say like, "Oh, we watched the show," or "You're Thomas," or "You're Brian," or I think Anupam mentioned he was a little left. he hadn't had any viewers come up to him. So if you see it, see him at future events, make sure you get some pictures with Anupam.
Or Darren from 6919. I won't be at Worlds to be a part of your scavenger hunt. So just make Anupam a part of the scavenger hunt in my stead. For those who don't know, last year at Worlds, Team 6919 had a scavenger hunt, which was like, oh, we go and we took a picture at 254's pit, or we took a picture at this team's pit, and we found, took a picture with like Dean Kamen, and somehow I ended up on that list, and some of their students were rather forceful last year. And this year, I mean, I just first off, teams I want to talk about, team 1683, thank you for this dope shirt. Good is not good enough. It never was. The picture's kind of creepy, but internet's forever, I guess.
Well, hold on.
It's a classic.
You intended to do that.
I'm aware. I didn't know it would be made into a T-shirt, Brian.
It's a limited edition T-shirt.
You realize it was a recording. It was a recording.
Yes. But
the internet's going to do what the internet's going to do.
Yeah. So huge shout out to those guys. Huge shout out to 1683. Also, it was team 7538 Metal Mountain who found me at a Mellow Mushroom. And I left this meeting in good, happy tears of I'm sitting down just finishing my meal, and a mentor walks up and goes, "Hey, are you Thomas from Peach Pit?" And I go, "Yeah." And just running through my head of what have I said that might have made this lady mad. I've said some inflammatory stuff in my past, like, oh no, was a hot take too? Am I about to be accosted in a Mellow Mushroom? But she just proceeds to tell me how she has a team full of kids who are too nervous to come and approach me and ask me for a picture. So I go and take a picture with a couple kids, and I want to really reiterate and really emphasize, if you see any of us, any of the Peach Pit people, even Ian, who you don't know his face and you only know him by name, if you find him, bonus points.
That's it.
But never. This section's going to get edited out, I swear. Never be afraid. Like, don't be afraid to approach any of us. I think all of us, just from this is just something we do for fun. So if for whatever reason, I think 7538 said they got a lot of their strategy like ideas from this podcast when I was talking to them. Like don't even mentors, like don't be ever be afraid to approach us. As long as I'm not actively eating, that's where I kind of draw the line of as long as I'm not actively eating or in I personally will commit to making time. Like, yeah, I'll take a quick photo, or do something. Like, don't be afraid to ever be afraid to approach us. We love it. It might be a bit creepy if it's in a Walmart, but we're niche internet micro celebrities now, so we might as well lean into it.
I think with your shirt, I think you got creepy down.
Yeah, and I got creepy
that's
down.
What you did that. You did that.
I mean, I've got like I got a blanket with my face on it.
And be the infinity shirt.
See, now
Yeah.
I'm waiting for students to go around like, "Hey, Ian!" Oh, not you. "Hey, Ian!" Oh, not you. "Hey, Ian!" Oh.
Yeah,
I'll find you eventually.
We'll get him a hat.
But yeah, like it was just crazy. I think like it was just a phenomenal event just from that alone. Again, huge shout out to 8736 Randy. Thank you for the donuts. It's always nice when I all of a sudden am prevented with free food.
I'm trying to I'm trying to recall our founding mission statement when we started out Peach Pit. For Sunny and Anupam had bugged me about being interested in getting it started, but it's been awesome. What we've been able to do with this again is just fun getting together talking about robots. I think that's why a big reason why we keep doing this. But it's been so awesome to have the side effects like Thomas was mentioning of the interaction with the community. But I think one of the coolest parts about the show is that we get to make it loud. I think the first robotics program is awesome by itself, but I think this show, it helps to solidify or make it more concrete that what y'all are doing is absolutely awesome. I know we got any comments last week on our District Champs preview show. Oh, I thought y'all were going to talk a little bit more about robots instead of just either strategic notes or just our general ramblings. So in an effort to correct that, we wanted to give a bunch of notable team throwouts or for robots we saw from the PCH season, just to give some honorable mentions or interesting notes of robots we saw around the district that we definitely feel are worth mentioning and calling out. So I think Thomas already called out his 1683. Thomas had a short list.
And then I have one more. I don't know. I didn't see that anyone else had said it, but I think it was 8577 Woden. I don't know if that was their actual team. They're the Georgia Cyber Academy champions. They were the wooden, the second most wooden robot at the event, with their big wooden shield that they had. That definitely they had a lot of aluminum, but then I think it was a 10-pound solid block of aluminum on that robot.
Yes,
is also on that robot.
Yep.
But yeah, that robot was killer. I think they had some of the best defense at the event, which is insane because they were a tank drive.
Yep.
I think they shut us down, and I think they shut Walton down in a match. As much as you can shut Walton down in a match.
Slow them.
Slowed them down. So yeah, I'd like to add them as my second team.
Yeah, I'd like to talk about 7538 Middle Mountain. In looking at how they played at DCMP, they drove really smartly, right? They saw what the game was going and they pivoted based on the game. I saw them doing cycles and switching to doing fairing and doing half court shots. And one of the most important things that you can see in the drive team was they saw when there were notes by the subwoofer off to the side that weren't obvious. So they were actually taking opportunities to get those short cycles and being very diligent and seeing the whole field and not just trying to cycle. So it was really great to see that from Metal Mountain. 3365 Flying Legion.
36-35.
Sorry, 3635 Flying Legion. They last competition at Albany, they were taking some of the North Gwinnett rings and shooting them back, playing counter feeding. I think some of the alliances that when they got to DCMP, elims would wish they would have had some teams like that could actually slow down some of that feeding ability. And then finally, the last team, 7104 Bot Brothers, the Benedictines Military Academy. It was great talking with them. And they started listening to the show last week, they mentioned. So it's glad to see them there. They went from not getting to elims at Albany to becoming a backup bot, to, playing enough to get the DCMP, getting to DCMP, and being a key part on the unicorn match, right? So it was great to see how they improved. Now I'm looking to see what they do next year. Looking forward to that. So those are some of the bots that I saw that really caught my attention.
Yeah, awesome set of robots. Yeah, I think 7538 was one of my most routine customers over on the practice field for getting their four node Auton down. But
yeah, they did a center line too in one match. I mean, think about that. Again, the practice field.
Yeah, keep on coming over. We'll be there. We'll be there. My shout outs are going to be, we've already talked about this team a number of times on the show, and Anupam's not here to stop me. So 9477 is one of my favorite teams in the PCH district this year. Something I've always enjoyed out of any FRC team is a plan well executed. This team came out of the gates, had solid expectations, and met every single one of them and kept pushing for what was next. They kept adding on mechanism after mechanism and really don't have much else they can do outside of a trap. So I'm very curious to see. I know there are already got some things in the works for trying to improve their game for championships, to see what they can do to make a showing there. Next up, I got 9260. This is Built for Bib. This is a team that historically, and we got to play with the former iteration of this team for 4941 back in 2017. They've got a couple of the same mentors from that squad. But this is a team that's making a lot of good decisions and making a lot of the right progress in the right direction. But it was a fun team to watch drive and make, again, good decisions. 9480 is a Gear Bears, one of our two rookies going to world champs, along with 9477. Again, awesome to watch. This was the robot that I believe pulled Otto and Robot's Garage across the winning line, the winners line in the match they got horseshoed. I believe they were the third robot on that alliance in quals that they wound up putting up a fair amount of shots. So again, awesome to see a rookie contributing to that level and playing the game to that level. I'm going to give a shout out to 1414, the benefits of starting your rebuild before your first event.
You can give them the endurance award for a 4-5-6 week 4-5-6. Oh man.
Oh yeah, they said they don't want to do that again.
Is that a quote?
Yeah. I think by the time World Champs comes, I think, what is it, 4 events in 5 weeks?
Yeah, that's tough.
So that's a busy one. But
a really short turnaround too.
But yeah, I mean, you all pulled it off last year for doing a rebuild with, again, short on time, and wound up making a huge impact on your division at Worlds.
God. Yeah, they got to the finals in their division, right? And they should have. They should have been on Einstein, to be honest with you.
Yeah. So I'm very much looking forward to how they're going to do at Worlds.
We won't cover that pain point again, but yeah, they should have been on Einstein.
I'm going to talk about 5293 Duluth Crusaders. This is a team I know Zach is a coworker of mine, but that's a team that's on the up and up. Very cool to see them get pulled in as a backup robot. Again, one of those robots that I think would have been a solid contributor on any alliance that would have picked them. But very much looking forward to seeing where they go. I got to give a huge shout out to the hooligans at 1746 for pulling off another ambitious rebuild. It was very awesome to watch y'all at the practice field as much as y'all were over there. But yeah, just to be playing your own game, chasing a strategy that had a place in this game, but unfortunately, stars didn't align for getting on the right alliance to really put those skills to use. I think this would have been an awesome robot to watch at Worlds as more of a dedicated feeder role, but also knowing that this robot was incredibly close to being one of the top in the district for the camera auto alignment stuff they had working up to the Tuesday of district champs. But yeah, I got endless amounts of love for auto and look forward to seeing what the future holds for y'all. Another shout out for this is another team I saw just boatloads at the practice field was 2415. Always happy to see them show up, and they're always happy faces for either getting them time on the practice field or watching them work on their autonomous modes and getting that robot working. But they had an awesome season throughout for being, I forget if they were alliance captains or a first round pick at a couple of events. But again, a solid robot, and I think that program's going good places. And then also a shout out for 3329, another robot we saw out there with some really versatile and smart play that played their role or were versatile in playing their role. I know in certain quals matches, I think they wound up being the bot that would go and play defense on the subwoofer, but we're also very capable of going and scoring and putting up a decent amount of points. So another good performance there from another PCH team. But David, you got a list here. What do you got for us?
Sorry, yeah, I'm gonna get the part of the South Carolina review. Well, first of all, again, congratulations to 3489 Category 5 for back-to-back impact awards at district champ level, and to 8575 to do Westerners for back-to-back engineering inspiration. Those are, again, in our state, very accomplished teams as far as their full program and what they do. They're just really, really solid and good to emulate. And Due West is going to come by our shop again to get ready for Worlds, so they want to add to their autonomous stockpile, because you're going to need a lot of variety. Probably not what it is, 74,000, but whatever that number was. But you're going to need more than a couple, right? 6366, the Ramrods, that were originally a sister team of ours way back in the day, and like I said earlier, they went to Worlds Rookie All Stars in their rookie year and haven't been back since. They finished up the robot early this year, got a lot of practice in, and just kept improving it. They were Alliance captain twice, and first pick at the other event. I mean, just a phenomenal season for those guys. 343 Metal in Motion. They won 2 district events this year. Basically a Swiss Army knife robot that was excellent at amping and then got their trap system going really well, and was a threat with their shooting and cycling. So I'm really looking forward this year to see what they can do at Houston, because last year both us and them were tank drives in a swerve game, but this year we're both bringing swerve. 281, again, another solid year for them. They always build super reliable robots. I was a little surprised they didn't get picked for district champ playoffs, but they always are bringing their A game when they bring their robot to a game. I think 1287 has been mentioned several times in this event, but they got all the way up to Alliance Captain 4 at district champs. They've been improving the last couple of years. Their robots have been very well put together for the game at hand. I'd like to also mention our one rookie from South Carolina that won Rookie Inspiration. That's Team 9571 Patriot Prime out of Powdersville High School. I got the honor to work with them this year. to get them prepared for competition. And they made playoffs at their first event, and they were Alliance Captain 8 at their second event. And so because of all this buzz they've created, they've been able to attract several technical mentors because they just basically started out with a teacher and some students. And now that it looks like they'll be set up for next year very well. 5130, the Undercogs, probably built, I think, one of the best robots I've seen them make in a while. I think that was the first PCH Championship, and that they've been to and made playoffs. And they were a part of an all South Carolina Alliance 3 with the Ramrod 63, 66, and 343 metal in motion. A lot of teams down in the lower part of the state have always had really good years. I think Phoenix 4533 had probably one of their best years with robot performance, and made playoffs at every event this year. They really put together a solid plan. 1102, unfortunately, they just missed the cut. I think they were like 2 teams away from making Houston. So that was a little bit of a surprise. But once again, 1102 is always a good team in our state. And I'll end there because I was rambling on about South Carolina.
I got to follow up on that and say, I know y'all didn't have with the 4 teams in district champs finals like you did last year, but man, it was the presence South Carolina has had in the PCH district since joining last year. I think has been phenomenal. I think the addition of South Carolina to the district has only been good for everybody involved. It's awesome this year that as many teams cross borders as they did for going to compete either in South Carolina or coming this way to Georgia.
We had a lot better crossover.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, taking out that one extra event, get the team counts up at an event, and then there was a whole lot more border hopping. Hope to see a lot more of that next year. I want a lot of Georgia teams come up to South Carolina. We need to flip it and get the South Carolina teams down to Georgia a little bit more.
Yeah, that I hope we get some cross-border play as well during off-season events for either scrap or screw or grits or whatever other off-season events might be happening. So I think the more and more relationships we get built between those teams, the better. And I very much look forward to the future of the district. I think you're only going to see South Carolina take off from here, because just getting more and more used to the district play season of, all right, how do we best use the structure to build a robot and iterate upon it? But again, I think it's already visible to see what that improvement's looking like now that teams are getting more than one guaranteed play a year to really get that iteration cycle moving. So, but yeah, awesome. Big fan of South Carolina. But let's see. I guess we don't have too much to follow up on Donut Shop. We did. I think we wound up doing a pretty good job. I think in any given question, I think at least one or two of us was right in the ballpark. I don't think anybody more consistently than anybody else.
The old blind squirrel thing. Yeah, just throw numbers out there, and some of it will be right.
Exactly. The spread is covered. Yeah.
Yeah, the spread is covered. Exactly. I do have a couple of stats to follow up on from our pre-champ stat, right? I just wanted to start with the most important part of this game, which was the end game. I want to congratulate the alliances for getting up to 3.3 average in-game points per alliance. We got over the 3 threshold.
Yeah.
But the one stat that we talked about, which was the amping stat. Of course, number one alliance did, of course, the best at that, where they were averaging 3 points per note, where 3.67 is perfect. So they got like 73% of their over their speaker shots amplified. And so most of the teams were, most of the alliances were above 50. Which is a good number, but you've got to we've got to think about that going into World Champs, and we'll talk about that next show. Autonomous modes of the alliances. The alliances are averaging about 6 notes in autonomous average, and of course, the first alliance was close to 9. That's a lot of scoring.
Yeah.
Our autonomous modes in the district event were very, very impressive.
Yeah. 5 points a pop. It's hard to keep up with that.
Yeah. You're putting up 45 points in autonomous. It's like, oh.
Yeah. Well,
Mhm.
last year it was, you got a +1 for getting the auton, right? So if you lost the auton, you weren't losing much. This year it was 2.5 cycles you needed to do to get that. So it was just auton. Just if you broke auton, you broke the game.
Yeah. That's where I hope for next year it's a bit more balanced to where teleop it still matters. But yeah, auton was just killing this year.
And by the end of the season, we've pulled it off, and I'm sure we'll see some really great stuff at World Champs.
Yep.
But yeah, very much looking forward to see when divisions come out, see what our kind of matchups our PCH teams are looking at, see how many can get into those playoff tournaments that come the end of their Saturday mornings, I believe, as late as alliance selections wind up being. But
yeah, I think the interesting preseason bet, which was how many traps will be scored, sort of reflects a lot of teams build season, where it's like, David and Thomas were over hundreds. Like we saw some videos. It's like when you first saw the game drop, it was like, that's really, really tough. And then you saw some open builds doing some traps, like, hey, I can do that. And then, teams went down the path, didn't, lock themselves in it, right? But they started going down it, and it became, this is harder than it's expected. So it was very interesting to see that part of that game and how teams sort of like embraced them back away from that one challenge.
Yeah. Sticky note on a sticky plastic was not easy.
Unless you had a leaf blower.
Or can a WD-40 on your robot,
Yeah. So.
But yeah, with that said, I think we'll move towards wrapping up. Again, as mentioned, we'll be planning on getting some more content out once we get divisions sorted out and have a bit more conversation about that. But again, awesome PCH season. Again, what I think is the best ever. And I think there's only more room to keep growing as teams keep chasing the rabbits that are 1771 with our autonomous modes or 2974 with all the drive practice. I think the competitive level, a couple of those top tier teams have pushed this district to. It's only going to make the district stronger and stronger as we've seen this year. But
just have to wait till see how strong we are in the water game next year.
Right.
Yeah.
So one of the things that when this was started, right, was trying to help raise teams up and help get some visibility of PCH outside PCH, and I think that's happened, right? Tyler from Fun, was talking tonight about back in 2022 when he saw the 1771 robot at Worlds and really liked it. He's looking forward to seeing it again. And I think numbers were, on Fun, they have 1771 ranked 8th in the world, and I think Walton's 21st, 22nd? 21st. So just think of it, since 2016.
They should be
I think they're higher, right?
Way higher.
But as teams start seeing this, I think you're starting to see outside of PCH that the quality here has gone up overall, and our top end has also gone up too.
Yeah, so thank you also to all the teams out there for supporting us as we do our thing. And till next time.
Yep. Well, see you out there, PCH.
See ya.